Poke the Bear is brought to you by Prize Picks and the Game Time app.
And welcome into Poke the Bear episode 265, presented by Prize Picks. Go use that promo code CLNS to get $50 back when you play just $5. And we're presented by Game Time. Go use that promo code CLNS to get $20 off that first purchase. Terms apply. I'm Evan Marinofsky. That is Conor Ryan. Conor, what is up?
Evan, I'm doing well. How you doing?
Doing great. Hoping that we're not recording two podcasts today like we had to do on Monday. Oh boy. I don't suspect that will be the case today, but
why would you say that?
You never know. Knock on wood. I'm on a desk of wood and I am knocking on it. I have to say, before we dive into the Jeremy Swayman stuff, I know we have both said we're sick of talking about it, and I agree. Like, it is, we've talked about this for months, and during the summer, this was really the only big topic there was to discuss. With the recent developments, though, I think this is one of the most fascinating contract stories that I can remember. Like, and across all four of the teams here, at least in Boston, this is fascinating. I mean, you have both sides throwing stuff at each other publicly, not like through even just like sources or anything. I mean, this is out in the open, statements, press conferences. I find it incredibly fascinating. I mean, it's just been, I don't want to say like documentary worthy, because that I don't think it's that big, but just like eye-opening.
Yeah, I mean, what have we said this whole time, Evan, before even the temperature was raised on Monday with Neely's comments and Louis Gross's comments, right? Like, whenever this deal was going to get announced, and this is when we were expecting it to eventually reach the finish line, right? I don't know if we're at 99%. Oh, he's going to sign that contract now. It's a little bit more open-ended, but when you look at where exactly this was a few weeks ago, even back then, we were like, I have no idea where this contract is going to be in terms of the term, the payout, because there's so many variables, and it's such a fascinating one with a guy that's an RFA who has great numbers, is coming off a great playoff run. His underlying numbers are great. All signs point to a guy who is going to be a top 10, top 5 franchise goalie. But when you look at the overall service time, the reps, the fact that, you know, he was part of an unprecedented kind of goalie rotation. There's a lot of unprecedented things in terms of what his usage was, how the Bruins handled the goalie rotation the last couple of years that makes what his value is, the comparables, the contract, even like, you know, past incidents in terms of like the arbitration, those kinds of things. It makes it fascinating. There's so many things that go into it that I think at this point, if a deal's done, I feel like we're in agreement that's probably going to be an 8-year deal, but again, nothing surprises me at this point because there's just so much beyond just, you know, a standard RFA contract where it's either, all right, a bridge deal, or you kind of give up some of that for the security and all those things. Usually RFA contracts can kind of drag on a little bit. You know, for every William Nylander, there's a lot that are a lot less dramatic, I would say. But it's one thing for a guy like Nylander, who's already a, you know, proven top 6, top line player when he was having that contract impasse with Louis Gross as his agent. But when it's a goalie who's never really been a number one, but the numbers are great, but it's the goalie market, and that's such a tough thing to gauge anyway, it makes it fascinating in terms of just what are the factors at play here, what both sides are looking for, what Swayman's looking for in terms of resetting the market and all those things. That it does make it fascinating when all is said and done. That, again, documentary, a book, you know, it's something where, yeah, like
that'd be incredible. We get the rights to the book.
There is a lot that can be kind of drawn from this, right? And you look at where exactly the goalie market is going with guys like Shesterkin, you know, Jay Gottinger, all these players. Maybe it is just the sign of a shift in terms of how goalies are perceived and how they're valued moving forward. Maybe it's Swayman who's the first one in that, you know, is kind of setting the tone here, even if it leads to a pretty contentious contract negotiation up to this point.
And that's been the thing, is that this has been contentious as heck. And I think, we're recording this Wednesday, so it's 2 days from kind of the debacle that was Monday. Where's your confidence level right now in Swayman playing for the Bruins again?
I mean, if you asked me this on Sunday, I would say 99%. If you asked me after the press conference on Monday, I would say 98, because I'm like, all right, well, this seems like it's a ultimatum, finish line. Let's get this shit done. After Louis Gross's statement, after Elliot Friedman noting on Monday that Swayman is considering a trade, I'm going to give 60. I'm going to say 60% that he's still here. And again, I think it all comes down to Swayman and whether or not he can move on from this. This is a guy that has ascended from a pretty unheralded, overlooked 4th round pick into one of the best young, bright goalies in the entire league. And it's off of a chip on his shoulder, having a very long memory, and having that internal drive that I think has fueled him every step of the way. And it's a good thing for your number one goalie to have, is that confidence, that ability to process things, draw motivation from it. But as we saw with the arbitration hearing, right, like that is still something that resonates pretty strongly with him. He's mentioned it multiple times before. How does that change when you have these comments from Neely? And, we can get into the semantics of what exactly the offer was. Was it 64 million? Was it 62.8, whatever, like the number that's been reported, right? But for Swayman, if you sign that deal knowing that, you've had this back and forth through the media, that there's some hurt feelings, some bad blood, there's the perception of the fan base, which, I mean, every player has to deal with that kind of wherever they go. But in a place like Boston, where goalies are put to a high standard, where you sign that contract, comes the expectations of, it's one thing to be the young goalie on a rookie contract or a bridge deal that, establishes himself as a future number one, likable guy, great goalie, all those things. If you're making $8.5 million, the standard's a little bit higher, right? And that's not to say that Swayman wouldn't want to be here because doesn't want that pressure. This is a guy that embraces that. But in terms of the back and forth between the Bruins, the business side of things, if that bridge has been burned, and he wants to move on and get a clean start, a fresh start somewhere else, that is very troubling, right? Because that is something that, I've seen on social media. People be like, just trade him. Screw it. Which, like, we'll dive into this, but the goalie market is already very tough to gauge, especially at this time of the year. The Bruins aren't going to just give him away. And regardless of what a return could be, it doesn't equate to, I think, a 25-year-old goalie that, again, you can dispute like how much he's worth right now in terms of where he is at his career. But there's been no signs in terms of his high danger save percentage, his progression year after year, what he did in the playoffs against 2 high-powered teams in Toronto and Florida. We haven't seen anything beyond like the workload that raises a concern of like, this guy doesn't have the means of being a top 5 goalie. If you sign up to an 8-year deal, I think you have to be pretty happy with what you have in this guy and where he could be even a year from now. But that being said, you just look at where exactly Swayman is. If he's looking to move on, it'd be devastating for this team. Because I don't care what the return is. It doesn't help out this team right now that is built to win with Jeremy Swayman in net.
No, I think if you trade Swayman, there's like a 95% chance you're the loser of that trade. Unless this was like for a Draisaitl, like you said. No, I mean, it wouldn't be for Draisaitl, but for a that kind of player, that situation, for a, top 5 pick, like even that is not guaranteed. I mean, Adam Pellerin came up to us at Warrior the other day and said, I heard the James Higgins thing is already, already.
It's like, damn it.
I forgot people actually listen to our podcasts. But even then, like, I think it's still not guaranteed. Confidence level wise, after Monday, I left that press conference. One of the thoughts I had was, the Swayman side is not going to stay quiet. They weren't quiet in the summer. They're going to say something. So my confidence level is more like 90%, but I would say my confidence level is like 65, which is right around yours, which by the way is not good either. Like 65 is not considering we were both like 100%, a couple weeks ago, now it's down to 60 and 65%. That's not great. And I'm not going to try to put a positive spin on any of this because, I mean, again, like, I think you read the same story I did, that Monday night story from, I think it was Elliot Friedman, who did the whole thing about Swayman, and the trade. And we'll get into the likelihood of that. Once you start bringing up the idea of getting dealt, that changes a lot of things. And, you see Bleacher Report, not that it means anything, but like your Bleacher Report being like 7 trade destinations for Jeremy Swayman. And I know what you want to say, but let's not say it. But I do think, you look at the teams that could trade for him. They are low end. They are not good. It's Columbus. It's Anaheim. It's, Utah. It's those teams.
Yeah.
So again, like you're probably getting either high-end prospects, high-end draft picks, which again, I like the idea of like if it's number 1 overall pick, but if it ends up being like the 5th pick, like, that's a franchise goalie you're talking about. And you're right. Like, this is why you and I both were very much on the bandwagon of 8 years for this contract. If you can lock him up, because there are no negative signs. The only sign is the workload thing. And it's a legit thing. I mean, we have not seen him without a tandem, but I also think every underlying number is good. The eye test, he passes that. Like the personality, he has that mentally tough personality that works to be a really high-end goalie. And he has that chip on his shoulder. You mentioned it. Like, this isn't a guy, like he went to Maine. It's not like he was this highly recruited kid coming out of U18, U16 hockey. Even at those ages, he was sort of pushed against. So like he has that chip on his shoulder. And again, we'll get into trades in a second. I kind of got off track there with, I get so excited with the prospect trades, but I still think a deal gets done. But again, there's some things it's hard to look past. And I said this on Bruins Beat, like, is that relationship with the front office the same? Are you going to sign 8 years to a team that is, just said those things about you publicly? I don't know. Like, and again, if you also hit on this, like, it sounds like the contract offer was like 62.5. So like the Lewis Gross side would be correct in that, like, we were not offered the 64. Although I think Elliot Friedman came out and said the most recent offer was 8x8.
8x8. Yeah.
But if it wasn't prior to that, like that's a $1.5 million little mishap there by Cam Neely of not nailing that. And again, 62.5 doesn't have the same ring to it that 64 does. 62.5 million reasons doesn't hit the same.
Yes. I know all of us at the press conference, like trying to do the math of what 8 by 62.5. It'd be like that long pause of all of us trying to do. Again, we're all in this business, Evan, because we weren't good at math in elementary and high school. So
we were not. I like the tweet that was like the Bruins offered the Swayman 6x6, and Neely like messed it up and thought it was like that meant 64 million.
That would be horrifying.
That would scare the hell out of me, as it would everybody else. To me, like, it's hard to get a read on the situation because both sides are saying such different things. But yeah, to me, I put this at like 65% of him playing for the Bruins again, which is scary. I'm not like, we don't fearmonger on this. We don't typically overreact. But I think there's a legit chance, and I want to get into the trade stuff. But first, quick word from our friends over at Prize Picks.
Fall is finally here. You know what that means. Football season is back. And there's so many ways for you to get in on the action and win up to 100 times your cash on Prize Picks, as you and the world's best players take the game to a new level on the gridiron, ice, court, and much more. Prize Picks is the best way to win real money this football season. Which players are going off? Which ones aren't? Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports opinions into real money all season long on Prize Picks. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks also offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday. Every Tuesday, Prize Picks discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value for your lineups. Prize Picks is also the only real money daily fantasy platform with an injury insurance policy so that your lineups stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. If your player leaves in the first half and doesn't return, PrizePicks makes sure that your picks are still live. There's really no shortage of ways to participate in PrizePicks, especially during football season. This week, I'm picking Justin Jefferson for more than 83.5 receiving yards and Patrick Mahomes for less than 267.5 passing yards. It's really that easy. So download the PrizePicks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. Run your game. Now, let's get back to the show.
So a trade. I think you and I are both in agreement that this is the worst case scenario. You do not want to trade Jeremy Swayman. He's the franchise goalie. He has every sign that he's going to be that. But, you and I said all along, like, if it hits worst case scenario, you got to consider these things. I keep thinking, like, Monday was the low. Monday was rock bottom. I don't know if you can get worse than that, especially this early. Like, if it's October 2nd, they continuously say they have until December 1st. So it's under 2 months. For it to me, that felt like rock bottom. In terms of a trade, though, like, where's your head at with that?
I mean, it's so tough because you have to find a team that, and listen, there's a lot of teams out there that would love a 25-year-old goalie coming off of a .933 save percentage in the playoffs who has gotten better and better every single year. A lot of teams would like that. There's not a lot of teams out there who, one, have the mix of picks and prospects and legitimate NHL talent that would entice the Bruins to move a guy who, again, is 25, a goalie, and also has 2 years of team control. Also, it's tough to find a team that not only has all those assets available, but also one that has the money to take on whatever Swayman's contract is going to be, right? Like, it's you have
and
to
initially wanted 9.5, and now he's down to sort of like 8.5, but that's going to be an expensive contract for anybody.
Yeah. So if you're looking at like teams that have like $9 million left, $9 million in cap space, it's, again, as you said, it's teams like the Sharks who already got Askarov. So you think they'd probably be out of the equation. You got like Columbus, these other, like Anaheim, but again, these are teams. Are they still going to give up like an unprotected first or multiple picks for that? Like, listen, if you have to bite the bullet and you end up with James Higgins, maybe that's something you deal with, right? Like, we've already gone through this before, but is it a team like Utah that is in a new market? It's clear the ownership there wants to make a few splashes. They added quite a bit to maybe not be a top 5 worst team in the NHL. Like, they've got good pieces there. If you trade him to Utah, and it's, again, I'm just spitballing here. We're this early into it, but
here it comes.
I was gonna say Keller at first because I always mention Clayton Keller, but like, if it's Utah's first and one of their goalies, like the Jamelka, one of these other guys, Doan, Michelli, one of these like regular NHLers, maybe that's something that gets done. Like, that one is probably the most realistic one. Listen, I would love Clayton Keller, but I don't see Utah also trading one of their few star players their first year in just to get Swayman, even if it would balance the money out a little bit. But like, that's a team that could make sense in terms of they've got NHL assets. They've got a guy in Josh Doan who has 9 points in his first 11 games, could be a legit top 6 player. Michelli already is one of the probably the more unsung younger NHL wings out there as well. Like, that one could conceivably make sense. But again, it comes down to, like, that's probably the one that would make sense beyond just a young team or a rebuilding team throwing you future first round picks and seeing what you get out of it. But it all once again comes to the fact, Evan, that the Bruins don't want to trade Jeremy Swayman. They want to keep him here. So like, they will be asking for an absurd amount to pry him out of Boston. Where again, he doesn't really have a lot of leverage right now other than asking for a trade. Like, the Bruins don't have to grant that. They could have him sit on the sidelines for a year, not make any money, have to go to Europe for a year or two if it gets to that point. So it all comes back to, people will be like, let's trade him to Utah. Get maybe Josh Doan will score 25 goals his first year here. All these things, like, sure, but I think the fact that people look at this decor, which is on paper, it's great. You look at Bob Essenza and what he's done, that people think that, Korpisalo is also going to have a .920 save percentage or anything like that. People forget, like, last year, the Bruins had a pretty good decor in terms of personnel, and they were, I think, 22nd in the league in high danger chances given up.
I remember we did all this when they signed Korpisalo, and like it's not automatic that he's going to be amazing this year.
Yeah, last year, like the Bruins have a layered, structured zone defense. They've got personnel that's great. They've got a great goalie coach with a great track record. Last year, they were pretty weak in terms of limiting high danger chances, and they were routinely bailed out by having Swayman and Ullmark in net. Swayman was, I think, 4th in the NHL last year in expected goals saved, so at 18.4. So not to dive too deep into the stats, he was so good he prevented 18 goals, which when you look at how thin the margins are in an NHL game, is the difference between quite a few wins and losses. And Ullmark was 7th. So you take out 2 top 10 guys in expected goals, and barring a complete 180 or a complete shift, and that's not to say that the Bruins can't be a top 10 team in high danger prevention with Elias Lindholm up front and Zadorov and, a stronger D-core and all that stuff. But it shouldn't be an automatic for Bruins fans ready to send Swayman packing that, just roll Korpisalo and who cares? Like, we'll be fine. Like, you feel a lot better, I think, if you have this really stingy D-core, this good zone defense, and an elite young goalie that's going to keep getting better as your last line of defense, which is why, again, all these trade, hauls that we've mentioned, intriguing, but none are, I think, better than having Swayman as kind of the guy that anchors what should be the strength of your team, which is its defense and goaltending.
And again, it's not like you have any big goalie prospects in the pipeline. It's not like you have the next guy. I mean, getting a really good young goalie is so hard. Getting a good goalie in general. I mean, you see these guys at 30, Jacob Markstrom going to the New Jersey Devils, like you're gonna have to do it through free agency if you want to do that. I mean, I guess there is also the possibility of dealing Swayman for another NHL star who makes same caliber money. But again, like, do you want to go trade Jeremy Swayman to the Carolina Hurricanes? Is that what you want to do? Like, that's a really bad idea. So that's why, again, like the trade thing, it would have to be one of those bottom 5 teams. It would have to be a team like Columbus or Anaheim, or Utah, and Utah might be above the bottom 5, but that's what it would probably have to be. I mean, this is a guy that is going to, most likely be in this league for a very long time and be really good. So you don't want to have to play against that all the time.
Right.
So to me, like, that's why it's so imperative that they come to some sort of agreement soon, because it's getting ridiculous. And, the idea of having to deal him. And again, like this can't be like, if they were to trade him, it cannot be for a low end 1st round pick, a middle 6 forward in the NHL, and like a defenseman prospect. It can't. You cannot do that. That cannot be how it goes. You've got to get something. You got to get some legitimate pieces back, because this is a franchise goalie that you're talking about. But yeah, I still think they signed him. I do. And I'm not fully confident in saying that, but I do err more on that than I think that they're going to end up dealing him. But
yeah, I'm going to go 8 by 8.4. If a deal is done, that's what it's going to end up being.
You think? You
Yeah.
think they're going to end up moving up that much?
Yeah.
That's interesting. Because I mean, again, they started, according to reports, I think Frank Saravalli had it. 6.5 was initially where the Bruins were, and then they moved to 7.8. And Swayman's camp, I think, was at 9.5, and then moved to 8. No, they were at 9. They were 9.5. They moved to 8.5. Right. Mm-hmm. So all these numbers. It's like, I was told there would be no math.
Exactly.
So again, what's the next thing? Is it 8.2? Is that where they meet in the middle? Like
same as Sorokin's deal.
Maybe.
We'll see.
Well, you know what? I know a way that Jeremy Swayman can save $20. Go to our good friends over at Game Time.
The summer is coming to an end, but rejoice, sports fans, because football season is back. And if you're a Patriots fan and want to make your way to Gillette Stadium, you got to go with Game Time tickets. There's nothing better than posting up with your buddies at a tailgate, working the grill, knocking back a few beers, and taking in that crisp fall air over at Foxborough. With the new Patriots season upon us, now is your time to see Drake May in action, and Game Time tickets will get you the best seats at the best prices to get you into the stadium. Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace that makes getting NFL tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to kickoff. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying NFL tickets. There's no shortage of options when using the Game Time app. Game Time Tickets app makes it easy to sort through which specific game or other event you want to attend and shows you the best spots available to take in the action. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. And with the Patriots home opener against the Seahawks just weeks away, Game Time Picks has you covered. Game Time Tickets also has you covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry, including event cancellation protection, 24-hour returns guarantee, job loss assurance, and on-time ticket delivery. So what are you waiting for? Take the guesswork out of buying football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. Now, let's get back to the show.
So a little piece of Bruins goaltending news dropped on Wednesday. The Bruins claimed Jiri Patera from Vancouver. The Bruins and the Canucks are like the same team at this point. Like they're just
Apparently.
grabbing each other's guys, signing, everything. I mean, it's incredible. Jiri Patera, 25-year-old goalie, would need to go through waivers if he goes down to Providence. Has a little bit of NHL experience. Makes you wonder, are they fully confident in Brandon Bussi? Is this Bussi's sort of competition, so to speak?
Yeah, I mean, I think with the way the waivers work, right, where if you did send him down to Providence, it would be a situation where Vancouver could just claim him again, which would be very funny if this guy gets claimed back by Vancouver. But if you're opening that scenario, then it does seem like, at least for right now, with 2 preseason games left, so not a whole lot of runway here, but maybe they want to see what a guy like Patera can provide this team. Again, 8 games played with Vegas over 2 seasons. Numbers are okay, but 25 years old. If they're either not, bowled over by what they've seen from Bussi so far, I think he was pretty solid on Thursday against Philly. But again, 13 saves, 14 shots. So if there are concerns about Bussi going into this year as the backup, and a guy like Patera who has NHL reps, the same, similar age, and I think he's more of a guy that they can get more out of at the NHL level, at least to start this year, as they kind of sort out what it is with Swayman and all that. Then, yeah, we'll see kind of how they handle these reps down the stretch here. Because again, whether it's you got 2 preseason games left, are you giving Korpisalo another full game? The guy that's going to be starting on October 8th, is one game going to be split between Bussi and Patera? So it makes it very interesting. But I do think with the waiver implications that he could be a guy that could be fighting for that backup spot with Bussi.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what they end up doing with that. Because again, I think Bussi's looked okay. I don't know if he's done enough to warrant being a full-time backup yet. And he, by the way, would also need to clear waivers to go to Providence. And I would imagine someone might claim him. Like, he is a good, young goalie, and he has done well in the AHL the last 2 years. If you're a team that's desperate for a backup, I think that's a guy that could easily be that. I just don't know if the Bruins see that at the moment. Thursday's game, nice 4-1 win over the Flyers on home ice. Shout out to Ty Anderson, who gave me free tickets. Didn't have to be that nice.
What a nice guy.
Very nice. I much appreciated it. They were like amazing seats, like center ice. And I don't usually like attend games. Like if I go, I'm gonna get credentialed, but free tickets are free tickets. Like center ice, like just right down the middle. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. It was terrific. Forwards though, Tyler Johnson to me stood out as someone who, again, I think he needed that because they're, not a lot, hasn't really got on the score sheet much so far in the preseason, but gets a goal, very noticeable. And I think he's a guy that, I don't know if he's quite proven that he's going to be, in any of those 4 lines on opening night. But I think just to have him, if they can end up signing him at some point, I think some of that hinges on what they have to give Jeremy Swayman. But having him, I just think in the lineup, kind of playing anywhere, I think is a good thing.
Yeah, you look at that versatility, and I think he drove play on. Jim Montgomery said after the game that third line with him, Frederic and Brazeau is their best line. They didn't play all that much because the lines were kind of jumbled up with Marchand only playing, I think, 4 minutes because he was sick. Wasn't an aggravated injury or anything like that, just under the weather, which is good news for the Bruins, not great news for Marchand during that game if he was going through it. But so that third line only played like 6 minutes of 5-on-5 ice time, but over that stretch, outshot Philly 5-0, outscored them. Brazeau gets the goal at the net front. Shocker there. He's looked good. Frederic, I think's looked good. And Johnson, was impactful. And he's had a couple of these games where he's had these smart, subtle plays. He screened the goalie on Lysel's power play goal last week. He won a board battle leading to Merkulov's setup on Brazeau's goal earlier this past week. So, what you expect out of a guy who's 34, been in the league for a long time. But as you said, I don't know where exactly he maybe fits in the lineup on October 8th, especially with Potter in the mix, Max Jones, like a few of these other guys might have to slot out of the lineup. But for a guy that's 34, has won 2 cups, was productive on a bad Chicago team last year, can play down the middle, can play on the wing, I think there's a lot of value in having a guy like that be your extra forward going into the regular season.
I agree. And I wonder sort of, how they view him. Because again, Sweeney said on Monday, still kind of evaluating whether or not they want to keep him. Another forward I thought was interesting was Mark Kastelik. He loved him some post-whistle scrums. I think it might have been every time he was on the ice with the whistle blown. Like even at the end of the game, he swung his stick at one of the Philadelphia Flyers skating by.
It's probably Hathaway. Hathaway was hitting everyone.
Oh my God. Like I tweeted out, it is wild that Hathaway was a Bruin for a bit, because for the majority of his career, he's kind of tormented the Bruins. I mean, he was with the Capitals. He had his run-ins with the Flyers. He's had run-ins. It is fast. He is, and it's funny because he's always laughing.
Yes.
I think it was Kastelik got thrown out of a face-off for like jumping too early, and Kastelik can come off as a little bit of a hardo out there, like just the way he plays. And Hathaway was dying laughing at it. And it's funny. Like I think it's hilarious.
He's a mad lad.
Yes, he is. And Kastelik is just more of a more serious version of that on the ice. I'm curious to see what he ends up becoming with this team, because I feel like it could go like 100 different ways.
Yeah, I kind of like what, I don't think you're expecting him to be this guy that breaks through with like a 15-goal season or anything like that.
No,
no. Yes.
Not at all.
But I think you look at the energy he brings. He's taken some penalties, but he's more been known during his brief career for drawing a lot of penalties. I think you look at kind of what the fourth line is with him, Beecher. I think Cole Koepke's had a really strong camp, so where exactly he falls into the equation be interesting. I would like to see Max Jones hopefully get into these last 2 preseason games, because if you asked me before camp started, I'd say he was like the one lock on that fourth line of a guy that has been in the league for a while, has a really high motor, could have a 15-goal season if all goes right for him. Like I really like what Max Jones can bring to this team, but I do like, I think, the identity they're trying to get on that fourth line between all 4 of those guys that are in the equation, if you add Koepke into it. So for Kastelik, from what people have said during Ottawa, it's like, don't expect him to be kind of a tough guy or a physical player. Guys get involved at all times. And it's not even like he's just going out there causing havoc in terms of like trying to pick a fight, but
Matt
he's always
or whatever. You see those highlights from the range, like, oh my God, dude, like play the puck.
Right. Like I think for like Kastelik, it's the whistle after the play, and he's like at the net front, trying to jam a puck or something like that. Like I'd rather you cause chaos that way, as like pissing off other guys by following the play, following the puck, those kinds of things. And I think if he keeps on replicating that, he's not going to be this standout offensive player, but Bruins fans are going to like him if he plays with pace, plays with a lot of physicality, hounds the puck, is active on the forecheck. I think there's a lot to like of what that fourth line can provide this team this upcoming year.
I agree. It is funny because you're right. It's him driving the net. It's him protecting his own net. It's not, fifth guy in or anything, or some of the headshots we've seen so far in the which is crazy, dude, by the way. I mean,
Bruins like the only going to be like the only intact. It's like them and the Florida Panthers are the only teams that haven't been like decimated by injuries yet. The Bruins got their own shit going on with
knock
Swayman,
on wood. You gotta knock on
yeah.
some wood there.
But like, look
Jesus.
at look at Ottawa. Good God. Like Stützle, Kachuk, and Shabbat in the same game. Yikes.
Absurd. On defense, they ran the 6D that we expect them to start the year with. They had Lindholm with McAvoy. They had Lowry with Carlo. They had Zadorov down on that third pair with Andrew Peeke. My guess is they're going to shuffle these pairs a lot. I don't think that opening night is going to be where they keep it. Lowry was fighting it a little bit on Thursday night, or Tuesday night was not his best game. Obviously, though, I mean, he's still one of the 6. I mean, just his rushes and everything like that are outstanding. Do you mind Zadorov down there with Peeke, or would you rather him be up with McAvoy?
I mean, I think it probably maximizes the overall value and balances things out more once if Zadorov is with McAvoy, because I really like Lindholm and Carlo together. I like Lowry with Peeke. But that being said, I agree that this probably is going to be a pretty fluid situation with how they handle the D-core, right? Like they all have guys that can move the puck pretty well. So it's not like you switch things around and like Lowry with Carlo, you still have a mobile puck moving guy with Brendan Carlo. Zadorov can move the puck pretty well for a big guy if he's with a guy that's maybe more of a stay-at-home guy like Andrew Peeke. There's that one play. Obviously, Zadorov has the setup on Brazeau's goal. But there's another point where he had the puck, did like a between the legs pass. And I was sitting next to Ty Anderson. I was like, if Claude Julien saw that, he would like, I'm going to just send you to like the ECHL. Get ready to.
You're going back to the USHL. You're going to the juniors.
Yes,
okay.
Yes. It's like if Claude Julien saw that, he would lose his mind. But a stronger game for Zadorov, and I think you saw some of that puck play. So they do have guys that even if maybe they're, a guy like Mason Lowry isn't the same type of player as a Lindholm or isn't the same player as a Lowry, they all have that puck play ability that they can kind of change things on the fly if needed, which gives Montgomery some options. And I just think overall the D-core was really involved throughout that game. I think it's especially this team that's going to be, I think, searching for offense, having the defense being involved, being active, jumping up into the play. I think the D-core accounted for 31 of 66 shot attempts. So keep that up. You look at how these teams like Carolina have been so reliant on, shot first mentality from their D-core. If they can get more from that group this year, that bodes well as they kind of sort out where the pieces fall into place up front, especially earlier on this year.
Agreed. I think we've covered everything. A lot of Swayman talk. And then we did some other stuff too. I know people obviously don't want to just hear about Jeremy Swayman and that, but obviously we'll have you updated as it goes along. Conor, what can the people look forward to from you over at the Globe and Boston.com?
Yeah, you can read all of my stuff over at Boston.com and the Boston Globe. We've covered every step of the way, whether it's Swayman drama, whether it's lineup projections, whether it's preview content. We have a few stories coming up the next couple of days, a couple of features, all that good stuff you can read over at the Globe and Boston.com. And if you want to follow me on Twitter, you can at ConorRyan_93.
Go do all that. That is Poke the Bear. I'm Evan Marinofsky. That's Conor Ryan. You Poke the Bear listeners. Have a great rest of your week.